meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 4, approval of the minutes. Need a motion to approve.
So move.
Support Farrington.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Section 5, public participation. This is the first opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on an item which is on today's agenda. The second opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak on any issue, and that'll be later in the meeting. Does any of the public wish to speak? Anyone in the public wishing to speak? Hearing none, will close public participation. Move on to 6, department recommendations. The first is I'd like a motion to move to recommend to the full board, and this is for Bluebeam integration with Excella for $42,592. Do I hear a motion?
So makes the motion.
Support.
Thank you. Jacob?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to bring a few items to you. I'm asking for your approval for a contract with a company called Velissimo to implement a Bluebeam connector with Excella. Public Works use Bluebeam to review plans, and then they also use an application called Excella to do soil permits. They do over 2,000 plan reviews annually, and the integration of this will increase efficiency by using one interface, obviously. Less chance of making errors when you have dual entry versus single entry into one interface. It will also help the 2 departments, soil erosion and the planning review department, to be able to do these things simultaneously. So,
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. I know we've already got the one, and we need to integrate them. But this is common because there are counties all over the United States, last I checked. Are there programs that are designed specifically for this? I mean, are there companies that are specialized in that other counties use? That we don't have to integrate different programs because it's already understood and set up that way?
yeah, it's a good question, Commissioner. The difficulty is the maturity of systems. As time goes by, we implement systems and then something new come out, and is there maybe something that integrates everything together better? In general, Excella, for instance, is a government system. They have financial systems and all sorts of systems specifically designed for government. And like I said, they use them for soil erosion permits. We also have them or implementing them at environmental health. But they don't have the integration with the planning side of this. There is nothing at this point in time. So for us at this point in time, to look at a new system and start that all over, well, it's a big endeavor. You know, implementation of Acela originally was a big endeavor, and we've made great strides improving the abilities of Acela over the years. So it's a.
So maybe
difficult
down the
situation.
road, there will be some.
Exactly.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Zinner?
Thank you. Jacko, I thought I saw something in that area about the person would have to, had signed an agreement not to work with Iran. Was that, why? Is that often, is that often a situation?
That is language nowadays that's common to some of the agreements that we have to sign. I cannot answer you exactly what the reason is for that, but I've seen that in more than one agreement before.
Do you see it with other countries also?
Not really. I think, I don't want to get political, but I think during sanction times, that happens.
Also, do you expect there'll be other costs, maintenance costs, or what kind of cost do you see for the future with this? You said we already have that.
Yeah,
Do you have an expectation?
the maintenance cost is $25,000 per year.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Farrington?
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Jessica.
Commissioner.
Either your team or Public Works, either one come up with any estimate on what the efficiencies would be?
We obviously have not done that. I don't know if Public Works, I have Lara Swarovski here from Public Works that can maybe speak to that.
Good afternoon, I'm Lara Saharsky from Public Works. I'm the supervisor of the soil erosion department, and I'm also the co-administrator for Public Works for the Acela program. Currently, we're using Acela, we've been using it actually since 2004 to issue permits. About 2 years ago, we did an update to the system that pulled in more of the departments within Public Works. So they can use the system as well. So now we're all able to access the system at the same time and see what everybody else is doing with respect to a project coming in for permitting. In, when was it, April? April or May, we instituted a portal for the public where they don't have to come to the office anymore. They can actually go in and apply for permits, plan reviews, whatever they need from our office online. One of the things that they can't do is see their plan reviews. They can see the comments, but they can't actually look at the plan right now. Integrating with Bluebeam will allow us to send the plans back and forth so that we can do concurrent reviews with their engineer. And it will also allow everybody that's attached to that record to be able to see what's going on, cutting staff time for phone calls, people coming into the office, mail going back and forth on projects that really need to get going. It'll cut it'll save a lot of time within that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
I have a question also. Did I hear you correctly that the yearly maintenance on a $40,000 software package is $25,000?
Yeah, it's $25,000, and that usually happens when it is software that is, how can I put it, that's maintained in a long-term basis. The cost of it is $25,000.
Yeah, I usually thought maintenance packages were more like 5 or 6%.
It's, when it comes to equipment, we're usually talking about 20 to 25%. When it comes to software, it depends whether software is hosted or completely maintained by a vendor. If we don't have no access to the system, the more expensive the products become because it is not something that we can really code or make changes to. So in those cases, it has a huge variety. So really upfront cost nowadays when it's hosted it is pretty much what you pay this year, you will pay next year again. So it's about 100% less implementation costs. So this is somewhere in the middle.
So this software is not going to be delivered and hosted on a county website, it's going to be on the vendor's website?
It's not a website, it is two
Well, what- server.
internal systems. The one is Bluebeam, which is the planning software, and then the other one is Acela, but Acela is hosted. It's a hosted solution. So Acela is in the clouds, not hosted by county servers. So the integration most likely sits on the Acela side of this.
Do we have any kind of statistics on what kind of uptime they guarantee?
I don't have Acela's uptime, if you're talking about that, but I can tell you, like, Laura said, we've been using them since 2004. We had, at times, rocky start with the organization, but I can tell you, since we've done all the upgrades and moved it to the cloud, it's been really running very well.
And this is the only package that will do that?
This is the existing package that we have. So, if we want to run interfaces or do APIs, we have to do it obviously with the existing packages. The integrator, Velissimo, is a company that we've used for other reasons or for other projects as well, and they've done an excellent job for us.
Thank you. Commissioner Zong?
Thank you, Chair. Jacob, was this project bid out, or are there any other software companies that can do this?
Commissioner, this one was done on a sole source basis because we did business with Velocimo over the past, I say, probably about 2 years. We've done quite a bit of business with them at Public Works, and we've also done some at Environmental Health,
Okay.
specifically Acela related. And I can tell you that we've had huge challenges in the beginning getting a good integrator for Acela. We actually had two different companies that first one we chose that had financial problems that we threw out, and then had a second company come in and could not solve all the problems that we had. And then we had Velissimo come in, and they did an excellent job of getting everything up and running.
Okay, so you're confident that the $25,000 maintenance fee is reasonable, and that, if anything breaks down, or that they will be able to take care of it?
Yeah, I'm very confident that the company will support us well, and like they've done in the past, and do an excellent job. Comfortable with the $25,000, I agree. It's when it comes to these type of things, it's a lot of money that we spend, and it is, makes us all uncomfortable. But,
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Seeing no other speakers, any discussion? Please vote.
The motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 6B, contract with Interpersonal Frequency for website redesign and platform upgrade for $182,000. Jaco, you're? Oh, thank you. I'd like a motion to recommend to the full board.
So moved by Farrington.
Support.
Thank you. Jaco?
As you know, Commissioners, I've been in front of you a few months ago, and you requested us to bid this out. I brought Jeff Schrader with me, Deputy Director of Planning and Economic Development, as well as Lori Eisen, who's a subject matter expert at the Planning and Economic Development. And reason being, they have a very significant role in the digital footprint of Macomb County. So typically, they guide us and help us when we do these type of implementations. We've decided to award the bid to a company called Interpersonal Frequency after we went through a very thorough bid process and also post-bid interviews. They have vast experience in county government, as well as upgrades from Drupal 8 to Drupal 9. They also have a hosting platform that is very secure and maintained 24/7. I know the last time I was here, there was some concern in the meeting that why are we not using a local company for this? And we did have a local company bid on this, but unfortunately, that company does not have Drupal experience, and that disqualify them because we really need Drupal experience. That's what our environment's based on, and that's what we develop in. So for that reason, they were disqualified, as well as price. Our goal is to upgrade Drupal 9 before November, when Drupal 8 will be end of life. We will also redesign the site, and that will be finalized in 2022. We have $100,000 in this year's budget, and the rest will be in the 2022 budget. So at that point in time, I will come back to ask for the money in 2022. The total of the project is $182,000.
Thank you. Commissioner Matusik?
Hi, Jacob. Thank you very much for bidding this out, for listening to us the last time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the bid process. There was quite a variety in the companies that bid on this. I'm confident that you've picked one that will do the job, that you looked closely for local companies, and I really appreciate the work that you've done on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr. Chair.
it, Commissioner.
Commissioner Zong?
Thank you, Chair Jaco. I just want to thank you for doing your homework, too. I really think that this company that you picked, I looked at some of the websites that they've done and can see the other county governments that they've worked with, so I'm very confident that they'll do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. In the write-up, it says that the company IF will provide content training and migration planning, but the county will be responsible for providing adequate staff to migrate content to the new site in a timely manner. So when this vendor walks away, the website won't be done, correct?
The website will be done. Everything will be done and completed, and they will walk us through the process right to the end. What that refers to is we are going to do a lot of the migration work itself is going to be done by IT staff. We have 2 internal Drupal developers that stood up our site as it is today. They, obviously learned their trade over time, but the reason we went out to bid and get an outside company is to make sure that the whole experience need to be done in such a way that we take into account what is trending today? How do people access websites? What does it mean to them today? And this company has a lot of experience with that. So they bring in, on the design front and so forth, they bring in a lot of value for us. On the back end, we have developers, we have the people from planning and economic development, who are experts in this type of design, and I'm talking about the look and feel of it. So there's a lot of people involved that will make this work.
So do you feel you have the manpower to migrate all the content to the new site in a timely manner?
Yes.
I have no idea
absolutely.
what timely manner
The
means.
timely manner is really 2022.
Okay. So when they walk away, if we didn't migrate the content, we'd have sort of a framework of a website, but it wouldn't have any stuff on it.
They, like I said earlier, they're not walking away. We actually contracting with this company over time. We're going to do our hosting through Fulcrum Hosting, which is a product of theirs. And we also are going to do support through this company to continue supporting us. In other words, when my folks doesn't have the knowledge or the time, or there's too much work, or we need their expertise, we're going to continue to engage them in that manner. So they will definitely, I mean, it's not a situation of them walking away or stepping. We are a long-term client.
Yeah, I read where they said that they have different levels of support. One of their levels of support was $400 an hour.
That's not what we signed up for.
It's in the paperwork.
Are you talking about a specific person or a specific?
No, they have IF staff hourly rate is $175, and the development ops staff, you were talking about
Yeah.
development, they list at $400 an hour.
What we signed up for, Commissioners, amount of $43,700, and what that entails is about, I can look at the exact numbers if you want that, but it's around about $30,000 for the hosting and support of that. And then the rest of the money, which is about $10,000, is the extra support that I'm talking about above and beyond that. And, you know, they are obliged to provide those, doesn't matter really what the rates are.
Okay, so the Fulcrum is their product, but it's hosted on Amazon Web Services?
It's hosted on Amazon Web Services, that's correct.
Okay.
And that's redundancy is an important factor there.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Zong, are you up again?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair. I forgot to ask you some questions. So you mentioned Drupal when you were looking for an agency that they had to know Drupal. Do you think, is Drupal the industry standard? Is there a reason why it was used? Maybe I might have asked this question before.
When we did the previous RFQ, where 10-7, the previous company that, you know, helped us, when we did that, the very first requirement of that was, should we stay on Drupal, or should we continue, stay with that content management system, or should we switch to something different? So that was part of that RFQ. And the decision at that point in time was that Drupal will provide everything. It's very trending. It's used widely in government and private sector. So we were comfortable with that. And then there's other factors that's important to us too. Like I said, we have internal developers that are Drupal experts that, can develop in Drupal. And so from a support standpoint, that makes it easier, But that's how we arrived at using Drupal.
Okay,
and not
great.
anything else.
And then my next question was, how long will this redesign last? What do you think in terms of like coming back to ask for another redesign? Will it be 5 years, 10 years?
I remember last time, Commissioner, you commented on that, and I went back and I read up on it, and it seems like the actual average time that people redesign websites is only 22 months. But I mentioned the number that I mentioned last time, 3 to 5 years is what and we obviously try to go 5 years if we can. Like I said, this one was done 2014, so this is 6-7 years down the line. We try to obviously not redo that because it's a lot of work and a lot of money. But when certain things start getting difficult, for us servicing our constituents, it is just time for us to make changes. And that was, major driver. That and also content management is not as good as we would like that to be.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Jaco. It's a big job. Regarding content management, that's not your office's responsibility, though, is it?
No. How this works is we obviously stand up the platform with the help of a vendor. Once that platform is stood up, then we train people in the organization, and specifically in the Board of Commissioners. We train 1 or 2 people that will then update your own content. In other words, it's up then to those departments to make sure that they keep their content current. which allows them to really update their information on their sites at any time.
Okay. What about the cybersecurity is still an issue today, and what I see in the background that, additional securities will be enhanced, but how will that, what specifically are they doing that's going to enhance what we presently have?
Well, when it comes to that, the one thing that was appealing to us during this process, they, like the Commissioner said, they did quite a bit of government sites. They have an excellent record in protecting those sites, and that specifically on the Fulcrum hosting. Fulcrum hosting is done at government standards, so we are pretty confident.
Who's government, which government? The state government, or the federal government, or who's the
State,
government?
federal, and county government. We focused mostly on county government because that's where, that's the references that we asked for was specific for counties that's more or less the size of Macomb County.
So they provide updates as we get on our own personal devices, updates of software to defend against the latest threat.
And they do those in the background, do the updates all the time as they come out, absolutely.
What if we're hacked and that the system goes down? What responsibility do they have to,
Well, that's an incident response situation. Right now, some of you might know, our security administrator resigned, went to a new company a few months ago, and I actually had a meeting with Mark just before this. We are trying to fill that position, but my security office, we have a full incident response plan. When something goes wrong, we have steps to follow, and we work then in tandem with their organization to make sure that all those steps are being followed and mitigate whatever the situation is.
the .org domain that we use, that provides some basic level of service, but also standard, different domains have different levels of security. The .gov may have more security, or how do you evaluate those for what we have here in the county? I know we're getting off topic. I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't. This is maybe not an appropriate subject for right now. So maybe we'll hold that discussion. But I'm glad the websites that you're doing this. It's definitely overdue. And as everything with government, they keep it too long, so everything they use is outdated because they don't want to spend the money. And as a taxpayer, I guess I kind of respect that. But as a user of it, it's a double-edged sword. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jaco.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Seeing no further discussion, please vote.
The motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. We'll move on to 6C, budget amendment for capital improvement plan, website redesign and platform upgrade. Motion to recommend to the full board.
Song makes the motion.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? I think we already had it. Please vote.
The motion passes 13-0.
Okay, moving on to 6D. Purchase order Modernistic 2 LLC, corporate and upholstery cleaning. Okay, we need a motion to recommend approval.
So moved by Nod.
Thank you.
The purchasing department solicited bids on the Minton site for unit prices for carpet cleaning services. 125 vendors were notified of the solicitation, 40 vendors viewed the documents, and 4 sealed bids were received and publicly read by the purchasing department on June 3rd, 2021. The purpose of this bid was to obtain unit pricing. Due to COVID, the fact that employees work remotely and many are continuing to work remotely, we do not believe that, at least initially, that we will be returning to a full occupancy cleaning schedule. So that was the purpose of the unit pricing request. I'm going to be very upfront. There was an error in the bid form. We wanted unit pricing, that is what the bidders supplied, but in the standard boilerplate of purchasing, they have a line entitled base bid amount. We failed to omit that, and I think we confused them by entering the base bid amount. We had drawings attached, and we wanted to, that illustrated the carpet areas. We also wanted the vendor to get a feel for the number of buildings, potentially the volume of carpet, and also the type of building, because that impacts the type of equipment they would use. So we need a vendor that is able to handle our volume. If you can see on the bid form, there was a base bid amount of $50,000, but his unit cost was higher. So I think if you couldn't enlarge the drawings, I think they weren't able to totally see that square footage on there, and I apologize for that. We certainly will make sure that doesn't happen again. But we are requesting authorization to issue a purchase order to Modernistic 2 LLC, locking in that 7 cents a square foot. Also, funds for carpet cleaning services are contained in the facilities and operations operating budget.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano?
Sorry, wrong one. Back up.
Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
The motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. 6E, purchase order for Western Mechanical Contractors Incorporated for the juvenile court boiler replacement project for $109,785. We need a motion to recommend to the full board.
Chair, I would move E and F since they're tied together.
I would support that.
Any objections to E and F? Okay, so moved. Lynn?
The purchasing department solicited bids on the Minton site for the juvenile court boiler replacement project. 75 vendors were notified of the solicitation, 39 vendors viewed the documents, and 7 sealed bids were received and publicly read by the purchasing department on June 10th, 2021. This project involves the replacement of 2 500 MBH boilers and related pumps to these boilers. Each boiler has 6 pumps. This is original equipment, the boilers, meaning that they're from about 1976. They are beyond their useful life and have become unreliable. We are requesting a purchase order issued to Western Mechanical Contractors in the amount of $109,785. This project was identified in the capital plan and targeted for 2021. We are therefore also requesting a budget amendment transferring $109,785 from the general fund into the capital plan in order to fund this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano?
Ms. Arnett, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I think we're getting, they left you by yourself, didn't they?
I know.
I think we're getting a bargain here, and I guess I'm going to refer back to the capital plan that I'm looking at, which was dated September 27, 2019. And if I may, I'll read this. The boilers located in the juvenile court building supply heating hot water. The boilers would be replaced with high-efficiency boilers, which we're doing. Due to age, we anticipate replacing in 2021, which we're doing. The cost of this project is estimated at $350,000. So what you're giving me is we're saving a whole bunch of money, it sounds like to me.
Yes, and we also happen to have a very good contractor doing this project.
Good, like to save money. Thank you so much. That's all I have. Thanks, Chair.
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. Lynn, when, on the drain board, when we do repairs like this, Candace will show us the before and after pictures, and you do so much of this that it might be in your interest to show us the improvements that we're making after they've taken place, because I think you're modernizing a lot of things, and I think we just don't physically see them, and it would be nice at some point to just get a report on several of the projects.
Certainly, we can do that. I shy away from anything that has anything to do with technology, because I have no idea what Jaco just talked about.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Romano?
In the second round, if I may. Lynn, for the sake of new commissioners, if I can just deviate just slightly from what we were talking about, it's all in this, excuse me, in this package. You know, you come before us, and you're asking for money for different items within the county, but I think some of the newer commissioners really don't know what the process is. It isn't that you just open up your desk drawer and say, oh, this is 2021, and then we're going to need new boilers. So from the beginning, when I don't know, I would imagine, in my estimation, your maintenance guy would come to you and say, hey, we're having a little bit. Could you give them just a kind of a real quick 2-minute summary of how it gets to the point that you come before us and are asking for the money for replacement of some of these projects?
Certainly. We have trades in boiler refrigeration personnel on staff. Don't get me wrong, we also use outside contractors for repairs and maintenance. But over time, and that's where we're trying to link through a computer system so that the board will have a history of the repairs on items, so that you can see when we develop a capital plan, I didn't just open up my drawer and decide we should do this. But every year we develop a 5-year capital plan. It's a planning tool. Sometimes we push projects back further, sometimes we move them forward, depending on the condition that we see. But I can give you more information. Certainly with the budget process, we will be submitting another capital plan, and we can certainly thoroughly go through that plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote on 6E and F.
The motion passes 13-0.
Okay, moving on, if no one has a problem, we'll take 6G and H together. Contract Wakely Associates Architects, professional architectural engineering service for the jail tower sanitary line replacement, locker room expansion and renovation, and the forensic lab renovation. I need a motion to recommend to the full board on G and H.
Motion by Nard.
Support Farrington.
Thank you. Lynn?
The sanitary line serving C and D unit of the jail tower requires replacement. This line being replaced is a horizontal line, and we're also replacing the vertical line that runs from the ceiling of the first floor down to the basement area. This line is approximately 230 to 260 feet. This sanitary line is original, and when I mean original, we're talking about probably 1985-86. Over time, a cast iron line starts thinning and eventually cracks. In order to access this line for replacement, we actually have to dismantle the lighting, we have to go and dismantle parts of the ceiling, we have to remove ductwork and potentially sprinkler piping, conduit, and fire alarm strobes that are in the existing locker rooms, the forensic lab, and other areas, administrative areas of the jail. Since the replacement impacts the existing locker room and the forensic lab, It is our belief, along with the Sheriff's Department, that this is the most cost-effective time frame to deal with the existing locker rooms and the forensic lab. The existing locker rooms have the original finishes, and obviously over time the finishes deteriorate. And also within the last 30 years there's been a significant increase in the number of female deputies, and the locker room requires expansion. In order to expand that locker room, we'd be encroaching on the forensic evidence lab. But that would afford us an opportunity to update that area and also provide an improved layout for that activity. We are therefore requesting authorization to execute the professional services contract with Wakely Associates in the amount of $65,685 plus reimbursable expenses not to exceed $5,000. I want to note that the fee is based on a percentage of construction cost, and this fee would be adjusted based upon final costs. The professional services contract would allow us to obtain the sealed bids that are necessary so we can have the specs and the drawings to put on the maintenance site. We are therefore also requesting a budget amendment in the amount of $65,683 plus the $5,000 or not to exceed $5,000 in reimbursable expenses. So we are requesting that transfer from the general fund to the capital plan.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Lynn. Was this part of the original jail rebuild plan? Are we rebuilding the jail piece by piece now, as opposed to?
Well, certainly we thought that we'd be well on our way, at least knowing the direction, whether we were going to get a new jail. So a lot of things were sort of put on hold. But because what we'd hate to do is replace the sanitary lining, we're ripping these areas apart. We'd hate to put everything back together again, and 6 months later, a year later, we're ripping out the ceilings that we just put in. And the ductwork and things like that to accommodate a possible reconfiguration of the space. So certainly, we would have loved to have seen a new jail, but we're focusing on the tower, and obviously you're aware that the population has dramatically decreased.
Does that sanitary line actually have damage to it, or is this maintenance that you're trying to? Does it actually need to be replaced today, or does?
Yeah, it's leaking.
It's leaking, okay, well.
We've done a Band-Aid as much as we can see. You almost have to, like I said, when you open up the ceiling, you see ductwork. So we can't see most of this line. So we have a Band-Aid on it. How
is Wakely going to help you repair that line?
He's going to write the bid specs so we can go out for sealed bids.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Len.
Hi.
Wakely is not actually going to do any of the work. They're an engineering and architectural firm.
That's correct. Professional services.
Drawings together to do the bidding.
Right.
You may or may not be aware, about a month ago, Sheriff Wickersham, Tony, showed up and asked for approval to redesign the tower in its entirety to accommodate not having a new jail. My concern here is, even though there's an immediate need, our expressed concerns to Tony was, you had an engineering firm come in and develop plans and architectural and engineering drawings for a whole new jail. Some of that has to be available to look at the downsizing that he was proposing moving forward. So in following Chairman Brown's line of questioning, is this the architectural engineering firm that was used to put the drawings together for the proposed new jail, or is this a different firm?
No, there was a different firm for the new jail that was Partners in Architecture in conjunction with a firm out of New York.
Well, Tony was looking for a comprehensive plan to downsize using the engineering firm that had previously put the drawings together for the proposed new jail, and it was, what, $1 million or $900,000 he was looking for? My concern here is, until that's completed, we're going to be piecemealing engineering and architectural firms to get things done in an expedient manner. I understand there's a need here, but I don't understand why the engineering firm that Tony was looking at using, which is the one that put the new jail proposal together, is not the engineering firm doing this.
Well, the other engineering firm was focusing on a new jail.
Wouldn't that comprehend something like this?
Well, there was going to be dramatic modifications. I don't know what kind of modifications they're proposing. I mean, I certainly don't want to piecemeal it. I'm not aware that the sheriff came before the board. And also, this was a request out of the sheriff.
Right, you said that.
Yeah, so nobody knows the existing conditions within that jail than Wakely, because they've been dealing with that building for years. So we think they're the best fit for this particular project.
Well, I'm going to vote yes on this, but what I would like you to do is go back to Tony and voice the concerns that I have, that we're going to piecemeal this until the complete, which he said may take up to 7 to 9 months to complete. So every time something goes wrong, we're going to be bringing in an independent engineering firm different than the one that originally, I think we spent $2 million on those architectural and engineering plans. There has to be, coming from an engineering background, there has to be some value with what was previously done with the old firm. So I hope A is talking to B before it comes to us, is where I'm heading.
We'll certainly make sure that A is talking to B.
Thank you. And if Tony wants to come here and talk about that, we'll be more than happy to do that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. The first question I have is, this is a contract, and the next one that we have is a proposal. Why the difference?
Just the different format, the professional services. Typically, engineers submit proposals. So we're not, on the next item, we're not using an architectural firm. This is all civil engineering.
Okay. So with respect to both of these, but this one, so that's just those services. What do you think, what is this project looking like for you cost-wise? And I know you can't bring it down, but a general range.
I would think construction cost for all 3 sections, the replacement of the sanitary line, that portion of the sanitary line, the locker room and forensic lab, were probably in the neighborhood of $750,000.
Okay, and I didn't look to see if this was in our long-term capital. was this project in, like a couple years ago, was it in for now?
No, it was not.
Okay. And you can't camera scope that line?
Well, we know it's cracking because it's leaking. So we know it's thinning, but yes, you can camera lines.
The reason I asked, and I know it's not a jail, but we've got cast iron, and if the whole thing goes, we have to jackhammer the whole basement out. But we have actually jackhammered a portion of the basement out and cut and done a repair within that area. But that's because they were able to scope the rest of it and knew that it was not in critical condition. So I was also wondering if that was a possibility, if you can zero in. If it's leaking, then you probably have some idea where it's leaking.
Yes, we just can't see it, but we know this is only replacing a portion of the line serving this area. Certainly, our focus at one time was a new jail. Now we're backtracking, and yes, can we camera the lines? That's where I'm trying to get, and that would be included in some of the improvements that if we're going to keep the tower, that's what we need to do, is look at the plumbing. But we wanted to just approach the area that we knew was a problem. And the reason why I trigger into locker rooms, forensic labs, is just the fact of, you're ripping out so much, you'd have to put it back, and then a year from now, or whatever time frame, you're ripping that out again.
And I don't think we're doing an entire renovation. I know we're redoing the intake area. We've got some issues with where the mental health individuals are housed and things. But probably at the very least is you should know exactly where and what he is planning on renovating. Because you may have projects that he's not thinking about that you might want to say, well, if you're going to renovate that, now's the time to do this.
Yes.
So I think that would be a good sit down to have. And I'm going to support this even though it was not bid out because it's the jail. The next one, I'm starting to see a pattern. I can tell you Partners, Wakely, and AEW. Partners, Wakely, and AEW. Partners, Wakely, and AEW. I've seen year after year after year, and I haven't really seen anybody other than those three. So, but because you said that's their baby, they've been familiar with it for a long time, I'm going to support you on this. Thank you.
Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Lynn. Hi. You gotta figure out where we're sitting. So some of my questions are already asked by Commissioner Hahn, Commissioner Kleinfeld, and I know we kind of put you in a tough position. Are we building a jail? Are we not having a jail? Are we fixing a jail? Are we not fixing? So I totally understand the situation that you're in, and I do understand with Wakely and with Partners and with AEW as far as their knowledge of the jail. But what I don't get with this contract is that this is just for them to basically provide the bidding process for us, the numbers so that we can put it out
Yeah,
for
they'll
bid.
do all the design documents.
So if it's just for a small portion of the line itself, I would think that the extensive knowledge that they do have of the jail. And I just kind of took approximately what they're charging per hour, and I just used $150, okay? And that's like almost 500 hours to try and estimate this for us. And in my opinion, that just seems really high. And that's my concern with, and I totally understand, their understanding of it, but I would think that if they have such a great understanding of the jail, it wouldn't take them that much time to estimate what this, I want to say, repair is.
In addition to doing the bid documents, they will also be on site during the project. And we foresee this probably being out there 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
Because when they start dismantling things, what you think is there is not always what you find. So there's going to have to be a lot of questions answered in the routing of things. So it's going to be more on site than you would normally have the architect do.
So will they be also kind of like a GC on the project too? Kind of.
Not a GC.
Okay.
They don't do any construction activities. They're interpreting the documents. If we open it up and we find something different, they're responsible for either doing the engineering to reroute it, or if they have to take more things out. So it's that kind of thing. But they
Okay.
don't do any construction activity.
So is this a capped amount then, as far as the total time that they're estimating? It's not, even if they have to do extensive engineering, and it's going to be a lot more money, are they going to continue to bill us, or is this is the total price for the entire job?
Certainly, their fee is based on percentage of construction cost. If the construction cost is, works out to what the fee is currently calculated at, you won't see additional dollars. That will be the fee. The fee is a little higher than maybe you would normally see, because they know the amount of on-site activity that they're going to have to deal with. It's very difficult working in that jail where everything's reinforced. So it's going to be quite a project.
Well, you always have the right answers for me, Lynn, so thank you for answering all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Matusik?
Thank you, Chair. The sheriff came before us with a proposal to use some of the rescue money coming to reimagine jail intake and healthcare center. We had a long discussion with him about using existing engineering, existing plans, what could be pulled from them. We're not starting from scratch here. And I think the same is true. Clearly, if we have leaking sewer lines, that must be addressed. It is a health hazard for our employees as well as our guests at the jail. And I'm totally with you, you know, the old adage, you change the knobs on the kitchen counters and then you end up with a new countertop and then you gotta do the new cabinets. It's just what happens. So I appreciate wanting to do the work while you basically have it torn up. I think that makes a world of sense. I am concerned, as some other commissioners have said, that if we're using recovery money to reimagine intake in healthcare, and we have this capital money that we're using to take care of issues, then we need to make sure that we really have evaluated, assuming there is not going to be a new jail. We have this tower, and the population has gone down significantly, so we're basically closing off the other parts of the jail and only using the tower. Well, I think we need a real evaluation of what's going bad fast.
Yes.
And a prioritization of that so that it doesn't seem like we piecemeal this every time there's a crisis, like a leaking sewer line.
Yes, and we certainly also want to make sure that if we improve the locker room and expand it, that we're not ripping it out and putting it somewhere else in the final study that's going on now.
But I am concerned that we have a real evaluation of the tower in terms of
Absolutely.
priority of things that need to be fixed.
Yes, because certainly when the focus was towards a new jail, the capital plan looked a little different.
Right.
This year, when we submit it for 2022, I think you're going to see a different plan. So we know there are electrical panels that should be replaced. We know that now. So you will most likely see that. But we also want to coordinate it with the partners in architecture to make sure that we're capturing everything, they're capturing everything.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Zinner?
Thank you, Chair. Lynn, how long did you say that sanitary pipe is? I think you
It's
said it.
from about 1985, 86.
That's probably as long as they last, I would imagine.
They tend to thin over time. I mean, some cast iron pipe can last 60, 70 years, others don't.
Yeah, I just saw a report on how the acids and stuff affect all that. And when A and B talk, When would you expect this project to start if it passes? Do you have any idea?
If it passes, they will start on the construction documents, like right away.
Well, I think it's good thinking to get everything done in that area and put it together the way you are. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Matuzak used the term assuming we're not going to have a new jail. I think we're all assuming we're not going to have a new jail. Nobody has said we are not going to have a new jail, other than Tony appearing and saying we want to restructure the towers because he thought we were not going to have a new jail. So before we get too deep into our budgetary process, and my concern again is A and B equals C, I'm going to ask Chairman Brown to contact the executive office and get confirmation so we're no longer assuming, because we all know what that means, we're not going to have a new jail. So
Certainly, and if I could
that's
just...
part of my concern.
Yes, if I could just add, if they approved a new jail, I don't think we would see it completed for 5 years. So we always have to keep that in mind also.
Well, even if they request approval of the new jail, we have to approve the new jail. So
That's correct.
I want to see if it's even in the thought process, especially with those relief aid funds hanging out there. So, Chairman, I'm making that request of you. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. Lynn, in regards to the sections that of the piping that have the issue, are they horizontal or vertical?
One of the lines is a horizontal line, and then that's also the vertical line serving that area.
So is it the horizontal lines that are
It's both,
demonstrated?
the
It's actually
horizontal
both.
and the vertical.
Okay. And just to kind of piggyback with Commissioner Haw, yes, to my understanding too, is that when the sheriff was here, that the plan was to keep the tower and work around the towers, to my understanding. But I agree. I think Chairman Brown should, relay that over to the sheriff to get clarity on that as well. But also, just thinking about this, since this wasn't in the capital improvement fund because you were under the anticipation that there was a new jail coming, is there anything else there that was basically put on the back burner and not put in that capital improvement fund that you're aware of that we probably should be addressing in the future if that's going to be an issue?
Well, certainly, if they keep the tower, obviously you're going to see a different capital plan. We've been putting Band-Aids on certain things, assuming that was the direction we were going to. Like I mentioned, the electrical panels. So you will see a laundry list of items that we think should be addressed in the next 5 years.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Just very quickly, before we were building a new jail, and Carabelli just used to get all upset about it, we were spending, I want to say we were spending about $10 million a year on repairs. 7 to 10 million, depending on the year after year after year. We're going back to that, just so commissioners know, because I am assuming because they're not going to bring forward to put it on the ballot again, not with the drop in population in the jail. I know that Wickersham said that's not even an option at this point, but I do want you to get the confirmation. But I want everybody to know that we will be going back to, there's a whole lot of repairs that got put on the sideline in anticipation, and now they're gonna come due.
Yes, and it's an old facility. I would assume the sheriff talked about not having MSD block rehab and just focused on the tower. So we have other portions of the jail, some going back to the 50s. So it's my understanding that he has moved people out of that section, but yet we still have the structure, and we can't totally just walk away.
Lynn, if I understood it right, the sheriff requested you to do this?
Yes, he definitely wanted us to, since we had to dismantle in order to replace the sanitary line, that this would be the time to take, to renovate and expand the locker room and look at the forensic lab.
I'm all good with the things you suggested. I just have the concern to make sure the sheriff reviews the plan and that going forward with any additional plans for renovation he has, the intake center and whatnot, that it's not going to affect these areas. Because as I think you mentioned, we don't want to do and then rip apart and redo.
Certainly, the architect will sit down with the sheriff and his staff, because we certainly can't tell them what they need in their locker room or their forensic lab. So they will actually have many meetings with the sheriff's department.
Okay, and the architect is just planning for the actual renovations. They're not planning for any of the workarounds for the forensic lab or for the locker rooms?
They would be doing the construction documents for that also.
For the temporary ones?
Well, not temporary ones.
Well, I mean, when you rip apart the locker rooms, you're not going to have people using it.
Right.
I assume.
Right. They would just temporarily have to relocate while the project is going on.
Okay. Commissioner Brown.
I heard the request, I will honor the request and get us a memo back from them so we can all read it for ourselves what they said on the answer to the couple of questions that were asked. But my question is quite simple. Maybe let's understand, these locker rooms that they want to get new locker rooms now as part of this, since they got to repair the pipe, and the pipe goes through the locker rooms, they got opportunity to repair the locker rooms now. Are the locker rooms anywhere near this diversion center that they want to build? Or will they have to be knocked out as part of their plan that the other architect's making for the diversion center?
When you say the diversion center, is that central intake? Items like that?
Yes, yeah. Right.
Certainly where they had it in the plan isn't necessarily where it's going to be, because we're demolishing certain areas. We were demolishing everything and had a clean slate.
I'd feel more comfortable if you just go back to them and look at the plans and make sure that you're not building something, those new shower areas, in a place where they're going to be knocking it out in the future.
Certainly.
And there's no rush to do this.
Well,
And a month or two is going to make a difference. It's been leaking for how long has it been leaking, right? Probably a long time. So it's not going to end the world. We'll have to wait a month till you guys get on the same page and give us some reassurance so we don't go down a track that we have to backtrack, because guess what? The pipe goes through the place where they're going to be, and the architect wants to do something different.
Yes,
So
we'll
that's my
certainly,
personal opinion, Commissioners, but you can do what you want. But thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
if I could add, we certainly will have discussion with partners just to make sure what they're envisioning in the sheriff's department, that we're not, because I don't want to see doing this and then ripping it out again.
But I have total confidence in you, but I don't know why they haven't briefed you on what their plans are. I don't understand.
Well, I knew there was a focus. I did not know that the sheriff came before the board.
Yeah, well,
That's what I
okay.
was unaware
I
of.
might want to mention that to you. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I too would like to see the sheriff's buy into your plan before we approve it.
Certainly, I will get correspondence from the sheriff.
Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
The motion passes 11-2 with Commissioners Brown and Van Sickle voting no.
Thank you. We'll move on to items. Let's bundle I and J, 6I and J together. Proposal for Anderson, Textine, and Westrick Incorporated, professional engineering consulting services for public works, North Rose Pump Station for $75,300.
So moved.
Support. Thank you.
over the past several years, we have been making repairs on the North Rose lift station 6-inch cast iron force main. Due to aging condition, we recommend replacement. We certainly would rather have a planned replacement rather than an emergency replacement. What a lift station does, it moves sanitary wastewater from lower elevation to a higher elevation. The buildings that are currently on the North Rose lift station are the medical examiner's office, juvenile court, juvenile justice center, the carpenter shop, paint shop, field office, pole barn, and also Old Century Receiving. The 6-inch force main that we're talking about is approximately 1,500 feet. In order to proceed towards replacement, we require professional engineering services. The services that would be provided are a topographical survey. They would review the pumps and the adequacy of the pumps. They would coordinate with Public Works in the city of Mount Clemens. When I say coordinate it with Public Works, during the replacement, we would have to create a bypass for the sanitary. They would also be preparing plans and specifications in order for us to go out for bids on the mitten site. They would obtain or assist in obtaining all the necessary permits. If we decide to enlarge the line, there will also be a state permit involved. They would also provide construction oversight during this project. This line runs down North Rose Street. There is a lot of residential constituents on North Rose. None of the constituents are on this line, but it certainly is going to impact them. So, we want to make sure that everything is handled correctly on site. This would also cover any testing materials that need to be tested. The method of replacement for this 6-inch line is what they call pipe bursting. This is actually a trenchless method of replacing buried pipe without the need for the traditional construction trench. They would utilize a hydraulic bursting head, and as the head moves forward, it fractures the old pipe and pushes it to the side. The new pipe is attached to the back end of the bursting head, and a new pipe comes in place. The pipe that we're going to replace it with is a high-density polyethylene. I thought I'd bring a sample here. It has a minimum of 50-year life, and it's also a faster method of replacing pipe. And we are requesting authorization to execute the professional services proposal submitted by AEW in the amount of $75,300 and requesting this amount be transferred from the general fund to the capital plan.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. Unlike the others, I looked at this and said, this is something that we could go out to bid on because there isn't the same need for familiarity that you would have with the jail. But then as we were talking in the last agenda item, no matter how familiar they are, they charge us a percentage of the cost of the construction. So we're not even in those instances saving any money by going with somebody that knows the facility, because it's a percentage of the construction, so you don't ever gain anything from their knowledge. And this one, I don't even see that as a...
Well, this is not a percentage of construction agreement.
Okay, this one, but there isn't, it didn't go out to bid or...
No, it's a professional services. Probably Anderson Eckstone Westrick is one of the best civil engineers out there. They also happen to represent the city of Mount Clemens. We need Mount Clemens' assistance during this process, so they have all the background information, because when you're replacing this line, it eventually ties into the Mount Clemens system. And we also have to do a bypass that we will be bypassing and going into, frankly, the Mount Clemens lift station. So there would be a lot of coordinating of that kind of activity.
Okay, I absolutely think AEW is top-notch, and I know that on services like this, there isn't a requirement that we go out to bid, but I also know that we don't ever check to see what's out there anymore. I don't ever see that. It's always, and I came off of city council, and I think the 8 years I was on there, AEW did everything that we did. I don't even think we ever looked elsewhere there either, because we said they were familiar with our pipes. No other companies in the area can ever get the reputation of being top-notch because they don't ever even get the chance to put in for projects or show what they have to offer. And this isn't your fault, but we've been bringing it up a lot at the table, and I don't necessarily know that it's being heard. Now, my guess is if you did go out to bid, you'd probably come back with AEW anyway, and if you did, I wouldn't blame you for that. I just feel like at some point, we need to see what else is available to us. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Chair. I realize this is Mount Clemens and us in this project. I'm just going to ask again, is somebody going to review this with Candace Miller's people? Because she has massive projects on her list out there, and I want to make sure we're not putting something in we got to tear up later.
She definitely deals with public drains. This is a lift station that only serves our facilities, but definitely Public Works is involved in this. We have to get a permit from Public Works. They also have to approve the bypass.
Okay, I didn't see that in any of the data that was supplied to us. That I want to make sure A and B know what's going on, so that we're not putting something in and having to tear it up later.
Yes, and what we would be doing on the temporary, we have to lay pipe down temporarily along the Griner drain. So we certainly need Public Works approval. It's not that it's going to leak into the Griner drain. We want to make sure it doesn't, and we will go through all the processes necessary on the Public Works side.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Matusik?
I just want to understand, we don't have to bid out professional engineering services?
That's correct. Professional services under the policy.
That seems wrong to me, I'm sorry. And I agree, AEW does amazing work. They're a local company. They have a ton of experience. But I just think it's wrong that we don't bid out this sort of thing. To echo what Veronica said, how does anybody else get their foot in the door? How do we make sure that other people who are qualified get in? I just find it disturbing that we don't have to bid professional engineering services. It's a comment, it's not a question to you. I find it troubling. So.
Certainly, if I could add, on some other larger projects, what we often do is have an interview process that they submit, like we have a request for qualifications, and then there's a narrowing down process, then there's interviews, and then you also factor in cost.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Zong?
Thank you, Chair. Is Mount Clemens going to cover any of this cost?
No, this is our line.
But it's going through Mount Clemens?
It's going into the Mount Clemens system. So the lift station, it's at a lower elevation, some of the property, so it raises the sanitary wastewater till you can get to a gravity feed. All the sanitary, because it's in Mount Clemens, is going to the Mount Clemens system at some point.
Okay.
But because of the bypass, we need the assistance of Mount Clemens during that bypass.
Okay, but they don't have any costs associated with that being a bypass?
no, this would be our expense. We're trying to replace our line.
Okay, thank you.
If I could add, I don't know if Mount Clemens might, for X number of days, say you have an increased, I don't know, it really shouldn't affect your sanitary water sewer bills, but certainly I don't think it will.
Commissioner Kraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out to commissioners that Lynn did do her homework and provided us with a pretty thorough step-by-step as to what AEW services would be provided, and coordinating with the Macomb County Public Works Office on the bypass is number 3 on the list. Just wanted to make commissioners aware that that is available and was provided to us. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
I'm trying to help Lynn out here. It's had a tough day today.
I have. I was so worked up over that base bid not being deleted. Yeah, show and tell.
The motion passes 12-1 with Commissioner Kleinfeld voting no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 7, correspondence. I don't see any correspondence.
Oh, no, it probably should have been deleted, sorry.
Okay. Then moving on to item 8, new business.
Mr. Chairman, Crystal's got something for new business.
Okay.
Okay, just quickly, you might have noticed that you received an email changing the meetings for next week. Public services will be added jointly to the Finance Audit Budget Committee meeting on Tuesday, so we'll have a joint committee meeting Tuesday and then full board on Thursday.
So the Wednesday meeting has been moved to Tuesday.
Thank you. Commissioner Zong?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry, I just have bad news. I just wanted to share that Center Line Councilman James Reed passed away on Monday. My condolences to his family and also all of the city councilmen that had to meet without him. So that was very difficult. He was a retired Ford worker and UAW member, and he was a wonderful public servant to his community. And so if I could just have a moment of silence. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Matusik?
I just want to once again express my desire for remote public participation, which I know is hinged upon having adequate staff people. And so my question is, where are we at in the hiring process?
Crystal?
We have interviews for my old position Friday and Monday, and then we have 2 other positions working its way through HR and Finance. Hopefully, we'll see one of those posted by early next week, and the other one should just be a few days behind it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zinner?
Thank you, Chair. I presented a tribute to L'Anse Creuse Public Schools recently. They had opened in September and stayed open. They had choice for the parents who wanted to keep their children home. I thought it was courageous and a good idea for parents for their choice for their children. I entitled it Putting Children First, and it was, I'm sure, challenging, and speaking to the president of the board, I presented it to the board. The president had said that they worked together with the teachers and the children and with the parents, and they pulled it all together, and it worked out very well. And I just thought it was good of them. I think they were the only public school that opened in the county, so that was what I did, and I thought they did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld?
we'll be holding class after the meeting to teach Commissioner Ha how to use his phone. That is good news for me that meeting has been moved because I just got back from NACO, but I have a MAC meeting in Lansing next Wednesday. So, and that, I really appreciate it because I've had to miss some meetings and I didn't want to have to miss another one. I'll be turning over those reins relatively shortly. So, NACO, we just, it was so funny, I was laughing because the controversy at NACO was declaring gun violence a national health crisis. So the controversy was that gun was in the title. And I was thinking back to, that's what our latest controversy was. So anyway, it was a good meeting. Originally, I had something else to say, but I didn't write it down, and I don't remember it. So, and again, I hope that can we get the chair back at the head? Is there, I'm not sure what the function is, we're not doing that. I mean, what's the,
People don't want to move it.
if people don't want to move, that's,
Individual chairs want to move it, that's certainly up to them. I just leave up to individual choice.
okay.
So if they want to, they certainly.
Okay, it just was always that way before, so that was a change that nobody said anything about, so, okay. All right, thank you.
To that, I like knowing where to look for people, as opposed to them jumping around.
The chair's kind of easy to find, they're at the head of the table, that's kind of how it's always been. It just changed, and I just didn't know, the function changed. I mean, Crystal's purpose was to help the chair, and the chair's not there anymore. I mean, not your only purpose, oh my gosh, her purpose sitting where she was, which is really where you were sitting, Commissioner Van Sickle, that was her purpose, was to aid the chair, and the chair's not sitting there anymore, so I just wasn't sure what happened.
I used to sit in the corner, so this, when these come down, we can probably switch. And then when you were in here, I did sit in your spot, so I could be next to Harold at his committee.
Oh, okay.
I've been bouncing around.
Oh, now I remember what I wanted to say. Thank you for saying that. I understand that there was an issue raised while I was gone with respect to the forensic audit. I have already expressed the fact that we do not have the forensic audit and have not been given a presentation on that. Is not only unacceptable, but I would like to find out if we can meet, I don't know if we should meet with Shepka or with Pete, but I would like to meet under attorney-client privilege in closed session to discuss beginning a legal process to obtain a product that we purchased and is rightfully ours, that has been given out to everybody in the universe except us because it's unacceptable. And I want to do that as quickly as possible. I wanted to do that at the beginning of the year. I did bring it up to Commissioner Sabatini because he's now the finance chair, but there's been a lot going on. I want to move on that. And I also really think it's time, and I've said it before, that we bring in attorney firms to give us a presentation. We haven't looked at other options in years. We do pay a very high dollar amount. I think that it's time to look. There's a lot of history with this particular attorney's firm that we're using, and others may choose to stay with them, but we at least ought to look at our options and see who's out there and what they have to offer us. Thank you.
Excuse me, Veronica, are you talking about the report? Or
yeah, the forensic audit report that we contracted.
I second with you. I agree with you. I have citizens talking to me about this all the time. So I agree with you. That is the commons report. That is the people's report.
With all due respect, Commissioners, we were told unexplicitly that state police have that report. And
yes, they do have it, but they've already.
We'll answer the question how the things are going along. I was hoping we'd get it, they'd probably give it to us after the trial's completed, but maybe not. We'll find out. We'll ask. That's good. We'll ask the question.
Okay, but I just want to point out, somebody that's been charged with something, their attorney has access to all the information, all the discovery. So that means the person that's been charged has access to it, but we don't. We bought it. We ordered it. We paid for it.
We don't
Why
have
is
stat-
it?
Bec-
Why would everybody else have access to it but us?
Because it's part of the court record. I'm not an attorney, but I just.
Excuse me.
Oh, just to point out that the
We'll find, we'll
Macomb-
get a question, because I'm not an attorney,
Okay.
but my understanding is
Well, that would be a
that
good person
we don't have standing to
talk
have
to.
that case, because Michigan Police told us to stay out of it without, without having them show up at our house and throw us in jail if we started tampering with the case. They were so worried
There
about.
are two issues with that. Well, the first is the Macomb Daily recently did an article there where they said they got 90 pages of the discovery on that, or some, I may not be using the right word, on the investigative material. They got 90 pages. So my guess is, in that 90 pages, maybe our forensic audit material. The second thing is
That was proven to be false, just so you know.
that they didn't have
They
that?
didn't have that.
Okay, the second thing is.
Just like our prosecutor said he has it, that's not true.
I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, there are a lot of things that aren't going to be charged. And we ordered the audit, we had a right to sue ourselves to seek recovery for stuff that was taken. And every day that goes by, days are dropping off with the statute of limitations. And so we now have 2 years where we've lost the opportunity to recover anything that was taken from us. And
I don't know if that's a fact or not, but on advice of counsel, we'll get them in there and we'll get a clarification, so we'll understand that in the executive session.
Okay, but because I asked him, do you have a court order that stops us from getting that? No. Could you state to me the law that you're going by that gives you the authority to seize our audit? There isn't a law. They couldn't state a law. They just got upset and said, ma'am, we don't pay for audits. That's all well and good. We let you have it. We let you have full reign with our auditors to do what you please. But now, we have a right to the product that we paid for, or let the state pay them and let them give us our money back. We can do that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Is there a
Kleinfeld.
motion in there, or is that just a request?
I'm not going to make a motion
No,
under
there's-
new business that
Okay.
nobody was prepared to consider.
Thank you. Any other new business?
I would just like to add to this complete dialogue, Don, you're going to ask John Shapaka. The person you need to ask is the person that told us to stay out of this or we'd be charged with obstruction of justice, and that's the Attorney General. That's who you need to ask. Just so everybody understands. And we got that in writing.
Curiosity killed the cat.
I'll be the cat. I'll call.
No, Barbara, that's not for you to call, that's for our chairman to call.
Hearing no other requests for speakers, we'll close new business. We'll move to 9, public participation. Opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any issue. Seeing no public, call for public participation. Still no public, we'll close public participation. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Adjournment?
And I hear a
Motion for
second in there.
adjournment.
Thank you. Adjourned.